Here we have verse 15 of the 5th chapter of the Gospel of John. Jesus has run into the fellow that he had earlier healed of a 38-year malady when he found him by the pool there in the region of Jerusalem. Now, apparently, several days later, 3 or 4 days later possibly, Jesus finds the man in the temple precincts, one of the outer courts, presumably, of the temple, and has given the man a warning, saying that, look, you've been healed, but warning him that he should not continue sinning lest some worse thing befall him. It may suggest there's a backstory here to this whole incident that we're not advised of by John. It does suggest that there was some kind of warning that was necessary because of the way of the man's life or some such thing. All of that is left unanswered for us, but we do have that impression at least. The impression may be driven home even more emphatically by what takes place next, although the meaning of it is a little bit uncertain, and there's actually a little controversy about what is exactly implied here. We begin with apelthen. This is from aperchomai. Erchomai means I come or I go. Aperchomai, with that apo prefix, means I go away. Here we have the aorist, second aorist. It's the third person singular, aorist active indicative. So he went away. Ho anthropos, the man who had been healed went away. Kai anangelen. This is from anangelo. It means to bear a message, and the prefix ana, which is part of this word, suggests bearing a message with some degree of detail. Actually, it would suggest reporting it up, literally, or reporting it to higher authorities. That would be the notion of the word. And so that's exactly the way we take it, that this man went away and reported, as if giving an official report, to tois, the dative plural, definite article, udaios, the Jews. Of course, earlier it was the Jewish authorities that had confronted the man and asked him why it was that he was carrying a cot or a bed on the Sabbath. And now that Jesus has found him in the temple and giving him this warning, the man straightway seems to go back and tell those same authorities something that he was not prepared to tell them earlier. He didn't know who Jesus was. He didn't know his name. But now, of course, he's had this second encounter with him, knows his name, knows his identity. And so he goes to them and tells them, Hoti, that Jesus, Jesus, Estin, third person singular, present, active, indicative of eimi. Jesus is ho poiesos, the having done. The word poieo means to make or to do. This is the aorist participle. It's masculine, singular, nominative, and literally it would be rendered, Jesus is the having done him, or having made him, hugie, whole. This is a word, of course, we saw earlier. So Jesus is the one who has made him whole, the having made him whole one. Well, we don't know exactly what was in the man's mind to run straightway to the authorities and give them that information. Was he simply trying in good faith to tell them the answer that he was unaware of earlier? Hopefully these religious leaders will recognize that Jesus, therefore, is an attested prophet and give him the respect that is due. That's a possibility. But the way the story is told suggests something actually a bit more sinister, that the man was immediately trying to go and ingratiate himself to the religious leaders with maybe a less than fully honorable attitude toward Christ. Hard to say. As I say, commentators tend to divide on that, but one way or another, this is what the man does, and of course the rest of the story proceeds from the ensuing consequences of that report by this man to those leaders.